Welcome to Healthy Conversations, sharing the knowledge, experience, stories, and the wisdom of herbalists and other natural healers, with your host, Stephen Horn. Today's guest, Claire Dalton. Hi, welcome to Healthy Conversations, and I have with me today Claire Dalton. And Claire, and I guess other members of your family too, contracted Lyme disease, right?
Yep.
And before that, you were like into Western medicine, and it didn't work very well.
Yep.
So now you've moved to alternative. So what I'm interested in, because this is a very serious disease, and many people contract it, don't know that they have it. I mean, and they're very ill and they don't know why. So why don't you tell us a little about your story about how this happened to you and how you figured out it was Lyme, and then on the journey, and I'll throw in some comments as we go along. So
a little bit of context. I'm 27 years old. I manage my family's farm. The age is important because it shows how many years we've been on this journey.
Yes.
So when I was about 16, my mom got really sick for the long haul, and she just went down one day and she had every symptom under the sun. I mean, she had muscle pain, joint pain, brain fog, nerve pain, stomach problems. I mean, basically any symptom you can think of, mom had it. And she didn't get better for the longest time. And I just remember going to high school. I was really young, so I didn't fully understand. But I remember going to high school and always wondering if when I got home that day, if mom was still going to be alive, because she was that sick. And so my mom went the Western medical route because that's what we were raised in. And that's just what you do. I mean, we got our flu shots every single year. And we I was like raised on antibiotics because I always had ear infections and strep throat. So I
was raised on antibiotics too. And I had chronic sinus problems, and the longer I took antibiotics, the worse they got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so my mom, she just was really sick. And so we went to all the doctors, and most doctors didn't know what to do for her. She got misdiagnosed with lots of things. So fibromyalgia and like every chronic illness you could think of, she was diagnosed with. And eventually we just started doing our own research, because a lot of the doctors would just say things to us like, well, there is nothing that has all of your symptoms. There isn't anything. We don't know what to do with you. And my mom is like on her deathbed. And that was the responses we were getting from doctors. And my mom very much went the medication route. So she was taking all the antibiotics, very heavy doses of pain medication. And that's the route that mom went. And I think we reached a point where my dad was kind of like, this isn't working. Like, the medication is making her so much worse. And so we just started doing our own research, and we found a doctor who was a Lyme doctor. And my mom finally got a diagnosis through a blood test. And that took probably, I mean, if we're thinking about her whole timeline of illness, it took years. It took a year or two from the time she was really sick to actually get her diagnosis. So by the time I came along with my health problems, and I had on and off health problems in high school, but for me, it was manageable. I felt like, I could be sick for a while and then get back up and keep going. And so I never thought that these things were health problems. Like, I had really bad tremors in my hands in high school, or like I would have, pain here or there. I had stomach problems here or there, but I was just like, oh, this is just part of being alive. Like, it's okay. And so
it's normal to feel bad. Okay. It's actually quite normal for most people in modern society to feel bad, because they're not that healthy.
Yeah. And it's not talked about. So like for me, I just felt like, this is normal. And, for me, a lot of my problems were female menstrual problems. And so that's something you really don't talk about as a teenage girl in high school. You're like, this is not something I'm going to tell people about, even though I had really debilitating symptoms in that area of my life. And so I just kept going with life. But eventually I did reach the point with anxiety and depression and panic attacks that and my mom had already been on this road. She'd already been diagnosed. And so she was like, I think we should go get this checked out with the same doctor that I got my Lyme diagnosis. And so right before I went to college, we went to the Lyme doctor. And I think I got like 31 vials of blood taken, and he just tested all my levels of like everything. So my mold levels, my mycoplasma levels, nutrient levels, just everything. And then I went to college. Didn't even get results. I just went to college because I was really like, I'm going to college. So I went to Southern Utah University with a vocal performance major, and I was on scholarship. And so I was working really hard to keep my scholarship and to have all my credit hours in. And I barely had time to like shower, let alone take care of myself. And my health just plummeted into the ground. So I just had regular anxiety, panic attacks, depression. And I was generally an outgoing kid. Like I wasn't an overly anxious child. I guess I maybe had some, but not to this extent. This was something that I was like, this is intense. And I had pain in my feet. I had joint pain. I had muscle pain. I had stomach problems. My menstrual issues just got so much bigger and so much more painful. And I was trying to go to college all at the same time. So I went home for fall break and we went back to that doctor and he kind of gave me my test results for my blood. And, he told me like I have really high mold levels, I have really high mycoplasma levels, co-infections of Lyme disease, they were all there. And all that was left basically was to take another blood test for actual Lyme disease. And so he took that blood and I went back to college after fall break thinking I can handle this. It's fine. Everything's fine. It wasn't fine because I got a call from my mom a few weeks later and she got the blood test results back and I tested positive for chronic Lyme disease. And that was really devastating to me at the time because I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to live a normal life. I wanted to go to college and I didn't want to walk this road. So my doctor basically told me at the time that we can either send me home and start treating or I can stay at college and we can start treating then too. But if I, keep getting worse, it might be too late by the time that I get home. And me being the really stubborn person that I am, I was like, I'm totally going to finish out this semester. I will be just fine. This is okay. But I had really bad cognitive dysfunction too. So I was working really hard to pass all my classes, but I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't even remember to put my car in park. I ran my car into a wall because I forgot to put it in park. Yep.
Oh dear.
really bad brain problems, really bad everything problems. And finally, I just called my mom one day and I said, Mom, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. It's too hard, and I want to go home. And I felt like I could go home, and God was okay with that. And so my parents came and got me, and they drove me home, and I was so happy to be home. And the funny part is that I always planned to go back to college, but I never did because I took me down a whole nother road where I had a whole nother education that I don't think I ever would have received in college.
So I assume you guys started looking into alternatives and whatnot. And what did you discover? Because there are a few herbalists who've done some really good things with Lyme, but generally speaking, in the general population, there's very little information about how to deal with this particular problem. So, what did you discover?
Okay. So at this point, my mom was at the point where she had gotten off all of her medications. I remember when you have Lyme disease, you have regular, we call them pill dumps, where you realize that the pills that you have aren't working. And so you throw them all away and then you start with something fresh. So our first pill dump was just all those orange pill bottles because we were like, this is making us so much worse. This is making mom so much worse. And so I was actually really blessed in that I didn't go on all the medications that my mom went on. So the first thing we did was a natural energy type protocol. It was an energy catalyst where you just use, it's called the BX protocol. And I think it's out of date now. I don't even think it exists anymore, but that was the first thing that we did. And basically it's teaching us that you oxygenate your cells. So we sat on oxygen for a certain amount of time every day. And then we would take, it was just like a spray under the tongue energy catalyst. And I think that kept us alive. But it did not, it did not cure us, and it actually caused really intense Herxheimer reactions. So for those of you who don't know what a Herxheimer is, Herxheimer reactions are basically as you're killing Lyme bacteria, it can be very painful.
Or any other thing, yeast or cancer cells or whatever. The body can't handle the toxic load from the cells that are dying off so rapidly. Yes,
exactly. So we had major Herxheimer reactions, and we had no idea about detoxing or anything like that because this was our first step into kind of not Western medicine.
Right.
And so we just had major Herxheimer reactions, and I just remember being so sick that I could barely open my eyes and getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And then as I'm walking out of the bathroom, I passed out on the floor. And, my parents had to like pick me up, put me back to bed. Like, I just remember being so deathly ill, and it got so much worse because these Herxheimer reactions. I was like, the Herxing is going to kill me before the disease even does. So we did that protocol for about a year. And the good thing about is that the doctor that was working with us for that protocol, he taught us a lot about diet. And so I always tell people with Lyme disease, diet is crucial. Like, if you don't change your diet, the likelihood that you're going to get well is slim to none. And so
that's true not just for Lyme, it's for any chronic illness. You cannot get fully well if you do not get on a healthy diet. Because that's one of the main reasons our body gets weak enough that we get sucked down that far, because we just don't have the immune system that we're supposed to have, because we're not getting the nutrients from the refined and processed foods that most people are eating.
Yeah, exactly. So I always tell people, and the first thing that I did was just a detox diet. So I was meat-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. I was basically everything free besides vegetables.
And that's what a lot of the healers I learned from call the mild food diet.
And that was the first diet I went on. So I remember coming home like around Thanksgiving time, and I ate basically like mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving dinner because that's all I could eat. And so like there was a time we couldn't even eat certain spices because the doctor said it would interfere with the treatments. And so we were just really, really strict diet. And so then as we went on this journey, we realized that with diet, we slowly introduced different foods. So we introduced grains and dairy, but we made sure it was organic. And we gave up sugar completely. I haven't had sugar, like refined white sugar, in probably about 10 years. It's been a long time.
Good for you.
Yeah. So
I not having grown up drinking or smoking or using any kind of thing, I had no idea what it was like to break an addiction until I gave up sugar.
Yes.
And then I suddenly had empathy for the people who are trying to quit smoking or drinking or anything else, because it is an addiction. I mean, really, it is a tough addiction to break. So congratulations on your successfully breaking the sugar addiction.
Yeah, refined sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. They've done research on this, and it's 8 times more addictive. So that's crazy when you learn that. And I was just so sick that I was willing to do whatever it took to get better. And I was a sugaraholic when I was a kid. I loved sugar. Like, I was raised on Kool-Aid. That's how I lived. And so, And so that was the first thing we did that I think was a really major step. And so then as we slowly introduced foods back in, we basically eat organic and refined sugar-free now. And I just learned to build a lifestyle around that, which is why I farm now, because I know it's so important, and that's how I stay alive. And I got
you can actually grow healthy food without chemicals, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that was the first step. So then we started exploring herbs, and herbs are wonderful, and they're actually very, very powerful. Like, we have no idea. Yeah, we have no idea the power of herbs until we start using them. And so there is a Dr. Rawls. He has protocols that he recommends for Lyme disease. And so, I mean, I could list all of the herbs I've taken over the years, and it's just an endless list of herbs. So,
could you give us a few highlights of some of the things you've tried?
Yeah, absolutely. And the most popular Lyme disease herbs, like the ones that really, really work. So there is Japanese knotweed. Japanese knotweed kills Lyme. And then cat's claw, that kills Lyme. Cryptolepis is a really big, that kills Lyme, that kills all bacteria. Cryptolepis is huge. Red sage is really, really good for pain. I've used a lot of red sage for pain, especially for women who struggle with the menstrual problems, which is what I was struggling with. Red sage in big doses.
Did you use Andrographis?
I did not.
Okay, that's another one that can be helpful, especially if you get this is Stephen Herod Booner, who's one of the herbalists who's wrote a book on that. He tells people if they get a tick bite to immediately put Andrographis tincture on it.
Wow. Yeah, that's probably really good advice.
Yeah.
So, and I tell people, if I was to get bit by a tick now, I would never go to a doctor and get antibiotics. I would never recommend that. I would recommend getting on herbs that kill it, because I think that is so much better for your body, and you'll have a better chance of just not contracting Lyme at all. Whereas if you get the antibiotic, you're killing all of the bacteria in your gut. And so that is like one of the most important things, is that you got to get your gut back first, because your gut is just your core. If you don't have your gut, you're going to have a really hard time peeling off everything else.
Yeah, well, cat's claw is one of the best herbs for restoring gut health that you have too. Yeah.
Yep.
So very good.
Yep. So we took those. And then,
just a sec, I have to clear my throat.
Fine.
I had a cold last week. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So all kinds of herbs, and those are herbs, and we use herbal tinctures, but then we also drink it in tea. If you want to kill mold levels, ginger tea is fantastic. I was just downing ginger and garlic, actually. Ginger and garlic, we put it in like everything, and I just remember eating. I used to joke it was the ginger garlic diet because we just threw ginger and garlic in everything.
Did you, yeah? Well, I love garlic. Like I took garlic for the cold I just had, and it really helps the congestion. But my wife doesn't like it too much.
Yeah. Garlic is really intense.
There is definitely you emit the odor of it, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good remedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead. And did you ever use like Teasel?
Yeah. Yep. We used herbs like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was Matthew Wood's invention. Not that it cures the limes, but he said it helps with the muscle pain. Yeah.
Yep. So there's that. Turmeric. Turmeric is really good for pain. It's a painkiller. You can either encapsulate it or drink it in a tea. And the thing that I tell Lyme people all the time is that when you have Lyme disease, you have to figure out the method that works for you because we're all so different. Lyme is a spiral-shaped bacteria that drills into your organ systems. And because of that, for everybody, it's different. It targets you. And so if the tea works better for you, use the tea. If the capsules work better, use the capsule. If it works for a while and then it stops working, try a different method. Because
that's just the nature of Lyme. Trick with Lyme is the bacteria burrow into the tissues so that if you're taking antibiotics that are circulating in your blood, it doesn't kill them. You have to actually work on a deeper level of health to get them to actually get out of the tissues. So
yes, and so
that's what makes it so difficult, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the other thing I tell people is that you can't just have one thing in your toolbox with Lyme. You have to have many, many tools. So herbs is just one of them. So we've also used homeopathics, and homeopathy is fantastic, especially for pain, because you don't have like a pain medicine that you can just go to that is good for you. But with the homeopathics, you can take a homeopathic for pain, and you're not necessarily going to have a counter reaction like you do with medication. There isn't going to be a side effect. It either is going to work or it's not going to work. Your biggest side effect is that it just doesn't do anything. And so for pain, like I took belladonna and magphos, and I took them together, and I did that for years, and that really helped, especially with menstrual pain when your pain is at its worst. And the thing with homeopathics is you can take a homeopathic every 15 minutes until your pain subsides. And so I did that with belladonna and magphos for a while. Chamomilla is also a homeopathic, and that works for intense pain as well. So we did that. But then also another really big thing for Lyme people that I tell them is that you have to understand the damage that things like cell phones and Wi-Fi and all of the energetic things that are hurting us are doing. So why do I feel like the Lyme targeted me when it comes to the menstrual problems? Because I wore my cell phone in my pocket for all of my high school years. And now I'm so sensitive to it that if I stick my phone in my pocket at all, I'm going to have intense pain.
I don't think that most people recognize how bad this electromagnetic pollution is for our body. And the research on it is inevitably kind of fudged because they don't really want people to know how dangerous this is. But when it comes to like cancer, it is one of the things that will induce cancer in people is excess exposure to electromagnetic pollution. I don't like microwave ovens. If I'm going to talk on my cell phone, it's like out here, in front of me, or not, or just laying it down and using the speakerphone. I hate having it near my body. Put it up on my ear, and I can feel like it'll give me an earache in a very short time. So it's really important that people learn to minimize their exposure to this stuff. And
Absolutely. And so, like, it even says on your cell phone insert to never wear your cell phone on your body. And what does everybody do? We put it on our body, and it really is damaging our health. I mean, we're seeing an increase in women in ovarian cancer or breast cancer when they put it in their bra, or for men, prostate cancer, all these things because we're keeping our cell phones on our body. And so, I just recommend to people, and this is what I do, keep your cell phone on loud, but always keep it away from you. Don't ever put it on your body unless it's in airplane mode. Ground your cell phone. So if you have a grounding mat, put your cell phone on a grounding mat because it neutralizes the frequencies. So it's not just shooting out frequencies at you all the time. One of the problems that my mom had is we lived behind high intensity power lines.
Oh
And
my goodness, that is awful, because that really takes down your immune system. I tell
yes,
people you should never live within a quarter of a mile of a substation, high voltage power lines, radar, or any of that other heavy duty electrical stuff, because it will really take your health down.
Yep, and that's what happened to my mom, and we had no idea when we moved into that house that was an issue until mom got so sick. And we actually bought a Gauss meter. My mom had found a place in our basement that was the only place that she was like semi comfortable, and so then we started measuring with our Gauss meter the frequencies in the house, and the place that she found was the lowest in the house, and that's why she could kind of stand it. And so we actually left that house in the middle of the night because we were like, this house is like killing her. We got to get out of here. And I personally, I had 2 periods a month living under those high intensity power lines. That is not normal. It should never be normal. And it just weird stuff like that from the high intensity power lines. So get away from your cell phone. Wi-Fi, plug your laptop into Ethernet. Throw out your microwave. Like, there's so many things that we can do that are just simple life adjustments, so that these high frequencies that are harming people won't harm you anymore. And so it's just a lifestyle adjustment. But we're so used to having our cell phones like as an extra appendage. But I'll tell you, even just in my lifestyle, I am so much more personable with people. I know how to talk to people because my cell phone is not an extra appendage. So it really benefits you in like every way with your health.
Yeah. I was reluctant to get a cell phone in the first place. I got one for business. And even now I find myself like, I have to kind of push it away because it, like the sugar, it's designed to be addictive. They literally have created it to be an addictive thing. And you see that with people. I mean, one of my friends who was, he's passed away, but he was a guy who gave dating advice, and he would say how weird it was to see couples on a date texting each other across the table in a restaurant instead of talking. I mean, it's really created kind of antisocial behavior, I think.
Oh yeah, totally. And then that's a whole nother thing, especially if you're chronically ill. So with Lyme disease or anything else, one of the hardest things you're going to juggle is the social aspect, because what you really need is people to love you and people to be there for you and sit with you, talk to you. And because we live in this like cell phone saturated world, nobody wants to do that, nor do they know how. And so then you just feel even sicker. But if you have a good community where you're knowing how to interact with each other, you're going to get better faster because you got people who are loving you. And love is an actual healing frequency. Like,
yes, it is.
Has the power to heal. And so this is my biggest message to everybody is get out and love your neighbor, show up on their doorstep, like talk to them, ask them what's going on in their life, check in on them.
Right there. Thymus, your thymus, seat of your immune system. And when we hug each other, we press our chest against it. When we're giving someone encouragement, we pat them on the back, same spot. And I found long ago that hugs and pats on the back and behavior like that activates the thymus, which activates your immune system. And I learned this when my kids were young. And so I always tried to make sure I hugged my kids every day, was very positive with them, because I felt like I wanted to have them have a really healthy immune system. And I think it's a great thing. And I think we're missing it in modern society. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because I know you said that when you were sick, it was kind of social isolation because people don't know how to handle sick people. So you're actually trying to help create support for people who are chronically ill, right?
Yes, and I actually run a nonprofit organization. It's called the Chronically Care Project. And what I do is I send care packages to people who are chronically ill all over the US. And I just started by making some handmade blankets, and I sent them out to people that I met on social media who are like me. And I realized how big of a need it was, because these are people that they're totally isolated. You know, I live in Utah. I grew up in Mormon culture, for those of you who know what that is. And you know, it was very isolating. But then I found out it wasn't just people that grew up in Utah who were raised in Mormon culture. It was every culture, every state, every religion. Everybody felt so isolated and so alone. And so just to get a blanket that somebody made for them in the mail was so healing to their heart that it just became like almost a healthy addiction. That's not a thing, but if there was such a thing as a healthy addiction, me sending out blankets to sick people, it just became a need in my heart, because I wanted to help people feel loved and cared for, because people are not feeling that when they're chronically ill, and it makes it almost virtually impossible to get 100% well, because people need people. And you know, you're talking about hugging. That's one of the things that happens to someone with Lyme disease is they hate being touched. They just absolutely hate it. And part of that is because your nervous system has been attacked by this bacteria, and the other part of it is that you get burned so bad by people who don't understand that you just get to the point where it's like, please don't touch me, because I don't need to get emotionally attached to anybody. And that's really unhealthy. And then it keeps us from getting well. And that's been a major thing that I've even had to work on in my journey, realizing that no, it's needed. We need people. We need interaction, and we need love.
Well, a friend of mine just did a webcast on this about the this problem with kind of the religious idea that you were supposed to be able to just command the illness to go away, and if it doesn't, then there's almost like this stigma, like, what's wrong with you? Don't you have enough faith to be healed? Or you know, what did you do to deserve this, or something like that, which partly creates this social isolation, which is funny, because you would think that those of us who were trying to be Christians, followers of Christ, that one of the things that we would want to do is minister to sick people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of this is, with the advent of modern medicine, we just assume people are going to go get medical care.
Mm-hmm.
But often what people really need, like you say, is they need some loving attention.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get that in medical care either.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that I think where God really taught me something that has been kind of a mantra for me, is because I grew up with all these chronic health problems with my sinuses and getting sick all the time and so forth. And I kept, praying to be healed, or got some blessings to be healed, and it didn't get well, until what happened is I let God start to educate me and prompt me to change my diet, to start using herbs, to go see a chiropractor, and so it was learning how to take care of my body that got me well. And I think that God can inspire you to find the things that need to get well, but I don't think he's necessarily going to wave a magic wand and absolve you from the effects of your poor lifestyle choices, with your horrible diet and your horrible health habits and your horrible, whatever is going on, that you need to work on and fix. And so that's one of the things that I've, been really big on. And I just, thought that was interesting. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, is because I thought I identified a lot with you when I heard you on another interview on a different podcast. So
yeah, health is a beautiful pursuit, and it's a lifestyle. I don't even think it's a destination as much as it's a lifestyle. And when you start to live that lifestyle, you realize how much we've actually lost as a society to just be human, together, to interact with each other, to, go and stand in the sun and to eat. I'll tell you, eating is like the most beautiful thing in the world to me, because I got so sick with everything I ate for so long. And now that I have it back where I can actually enjoy food again, eating is beautiful. And eating organic, you're like, why would I ever want to go and eat at McDonald's ever again? Because it's beautiful. You know that it's giving you life. It's giving you the energy that you need to function. You just learn to appreciate these things, but it's a lifestyle. And it's a lifestyle that we have to aim for because it's such a normal thing in society to live the unhealthy lifestyle. I'm a young single adult, so I have a lot of friends that they don't even remotely understand why I'm so passionate about living healthy. And so, they want to go out and party till midnight or 1 a.m. and they want to, eat junk. And I love eating healthy. I love going to bed at 10:30 at night and getting a good night's sleep. I love moving my body and exercising. And that's a whole nother thing within itself, because you have the gym rats with the young people where they're just at the gym 24/7, but then you have the young people that don't want to get up off the couch. And I'm like the happy medium where like I work on a farm and I make sure I move my body every day, but I don't kill myself over going to the gym every day. And so that's a whole nother thing with, young people. And it's been a very interesting journey to learn the lifestyle and the steps that I need to take to get better. That was my journey too. Me and my parents, we prayed and asked God for every single thing that we were supposed to take on this journey. What do we do to get well? Okay, that worked. That didn't work. What do we do next? What do we do next? Mm-hmm. And he guided us to be able to build this lifestyle that is honestly ridiculed by a lot of people. But for me, it's so beautiful and such a rich lifestyle that I would never want to go back to how I lived before.
Well, when I gave up refined sugar, I have not been as pure about it in the last 10 or so years, but for like 6 years, I wouldn't touch it, period. And then I just, once in a while, I've let it slide back in and have to push it back out. Right.
Yeah. And you don't,
because of the social thing. The social addiction is harder to deal with than the physical addiction.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that you really get ridiculed for is you don't eat around people. But I will tell you that there are ways to get rid of the sugar, but still eat really good food. And it's just a matter of learning how to cook and replacing your sweeteners. So use organic honey, organic maple syrup. There's Lakanto sweetener, which monk fruit is a superfood. And so monk fruit sweetener is great. You have maple sugar, which is better. There are just so many different sugar substitutes. And if you learn how to cook with it, nobody will even know that there's sugar.
That's what I always liked, is to make stuff with healthy ingredients that people would like. But I noticed, and probably you did too, that when you start making those changes, like when I was off sugar for 3 weeks, it was like my head cleared. It was like I could think more clearly than I'd ever been able to think in my entire life. And I realized that because I'd eaten sugar my entire life, I didn't know that it was possible to feel this good. And I think that's what it becomes. It becomes a positive addiction, because you start making these changes and you get used to feeling good, and you go back and do one of these other behaviors you used to do, and you immediately notice that your energy goes down, your brain isn't as clear, and you just don't feel as good. And I think it's a good addiction to be addicted to feeling good and having a clear head.
Yeah. The first thing I got back in my health was my brain. So when I was in high school, I just kind of thought I was stupid. I was like, I work really hard. I was a really good student in high school, but I went to a private school and we were doing college level work, and I just could not grasp onto most of the concepts in math, science, history. I couldn't remember dates or anything. I just thought I was kind of dumb because I worked really hard. But when I gave up sugar, I got my brain back and I realized I'm intelligent. Like, what? I had no idea that I was smart and that I could remember things and I could read and I could comprehend. I just didn't know, but I gave up sugar and I got my brain back.
I think what you're seeing in society with a lot of people with their severe mental and emotional problems, their lack of self-control, because I see things where people, are freaking out like in an airport. I've seen videos of this and I'm going, how can anyone behave like that in public? Even drunk or not, how can they behave like that? But also just people just don't seem to be able to think clearly anymore. And I really do think that this is a result of primarily the diet that they're getting, because they just are losing the ability to have good mental function. And as soon as you start eating healthier and you get rid of the refined carbohydrates, the processed vegetable oils, and you just start eating real food, one of the things you find out is that, like you found out, you're smarter than you think you are.
Yep, exactly. And that's ultimately what led me to become a farmer, because I realized I live in a really small town and there isn't a lot of ways for moms who are raising young kids to get their kids really good, healthy, nutrient dense produce. And now that's a passion of mine, I was like, I really want to go into this. And so it changed my whole life. And that not only am I seeing that my food is improved now, but I understand exactly where my food comes from. And I understand how important it is to go and sink your feet into the dirt every day, and the importance of just being outside, being in nature, getting your microbiome and your gut to be healthy is all about being in nature, getting dirty. Don't be afraid to get dirty.
Yeah.
Like, the best thing you can do for your kids is have them go play in the manure pile, like for real. It's so healthy.
It's good for their immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Really
Actually,
good for our immune system.
My first herb teacher, Edward Milo Millet, he had gone and studied with people in South and Central America, and he said there was a belief among the Aztecs, I think he said it was, that when it came time to plant the corn and beans, everybody had to go into the field and plant the corn and beans. And when it came to time to harvest it, everybody had to go and harvest the corn and beans, because if you didn't, you would go insane. Mm-hmm. And I think that losing our connection to the earth mm-hmm. does make us very ungrounded in our thought processes and very disconnected from reality. I remember years ago meeting this young girl, I think she was 16, and her mother told me she'd stopped drinking milk when she visited a dairy and found out it came out of an animal.
Oh, wow.
And I remember some farmers in the Midwest telling me that one of their grandchildren said, "I hate farmers." And they said, "Well, if there were no farmers, where would you get your food?" He said, "I'd buy it from the grocery store."
Oh, man. Yeah, there's a very big cognitive dissonance there, where we're not understanding where our food is coming from. And because we don't understand, we think it's so much better to have this fast food that is prepared by people and all this stuff. But the best thing you can do is go in your garden, pick up a tomato and eat it. Like,
and also people with the commercial agriculture is extremely destructive to the environment. And the old style way of farming, where you had a diversity of crops and you had animals and everything else like that, is healthier for the environment than our modern monocropping, where you grow acres and acres and acres of soybeans or corn or wheat or whatever. And so a lot of times people think, being a vegan is good because you're saving the environment. No, the best thing is the traditional way of having animals and plants together. My wife and I really want to get a little bit of land and have our garden and farm. So we're planning on doing it hopefully when the youngest stepson graduates from high school in a couple of years. But
it's a beautiful lifestyle, being able to do that and see where everything comes from. And like I said, getting your feet in the dirt, that's one of the best things for you. And so I started learning all those things, and I changed as a person, whereas we live in a very sterile life in America, where we think that everything needs to be antibacterial soap and antibacterial everything. And I mean, now I'm butchering chickens and helping deliver baby goats and with my bare hands, and I'm like so comfortable in that environment because it's so natural. Like milking a goat in the morning is the most natural thing in the world, and I wouldn't want to live any other way, because it gets me up in the morning and it gets me very connected to reality and very connected to life. You're always experiencing birth and death on the farm, birth and death constantly. And so it's the whole cycle of life, and it's beautiful. That's what it's all about to me. And it's one of the things that really got me well. I lost all my muscle mass when I got really sick and I started working on the farm. Couldn't even lift a 5-gallon bucket of water. And so I would just split it and fill up half buckets. And now I'm, hauling water and all kinds of other things. And part of that was just going back to work and moving my body. And it's really hard at first. I was like, there's no way I can do this hard labor job that is honestly, like, I was like, this is for men. Like, this is the labor for men. What am I doing? And I realized it's not. Like, it's so refreshing to get your muscles moving again after years of being bedridden. So it's just getting through that hard part in the beginning where it's hard and you're going to feel some pain, but it will make you stronger.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, do you have some parting thoughts for our viewers here that you want to give them some words of encouragement, especially to people who may be chronically ill like you were?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My biggest advice to, I think, everybody who's struggling with Lyme disease or any chronic illness is to never give up. And I know that sounds so cliche. Oh, but really, like, it's a big mind battle too. When you're fighting this illness, you're going through, it starts out as a physical illness, and then it becomes emotional, and then it becomes spiritual. And so never give up. Realize that God is with you, and He is strengthening you in your journey, and He will guide you to the things that you need to know. And in the moments that we really want to give up, those are the moments that we really need to hold on. And my family always says, don't quit before the miracle happens, because there will be many times that you want to quit before the miracle happens. Lyme disease is a form of hell in my mind. It's been a horrible, traumatic journey. And even just healing from the trauma when you're feeling physically better is a whole nother battle. But just keep going. Don't give up, because God is with you. And the people who truly love you are the people that will stick around and that are also with you, cheering you on all along the way.
Well, that's great. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Claire. Thank you for joining me. And everybody, I'm going to put links to Claire's website below. So if you want to support her in her efforts to help people who are chronically ill and give them care packages. And I also went through there and saw you had some nice recipes for healthier versions of food and everything. Mm-hmm. Go to her website and check it out. And we'll see you on our next episode of Healthy Conversations. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to catch future episodes of Healthy Conversations. Help us educate others by sharing this video, and please feel free to share your own thoughts, comments, and questions below. To learn more, check out the links below.